Hey kiddos, if you are watching this video, that means you have already completed this assignment. You have done the Mystery of the Cactus Arm characters assignment on Google Classroom. If you have not done that assignment, please go complete that before you watch the video. The purpose is for you to try it on your own first, then come back and check your thinking with mine before you do your exit ticket, okay? All right, so if you're still watching this video, it is because you have completed this assignment and you are ready to check your work. So this week we are digging into the story of the Mystery of the Cactus Arm. It's in our Storyworks, one of our Storyworks magazines that we get. And today our focus is on characters. Now remember from the character mini lesson, that was a review back when we were reading Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, we learned that we ask ourselves questions about characters based on how they're thinking, acting, feeling, and speaking. And so when we're trying to describe characters or answer any of those questions, we have to look for clues in the text about how they could be thinking, what they could be doing, how they could be feeling, or what they're saying that can help us kind of put some of those pieces together. So in this section here, it was when Oliver was throwing rocks at the cactus, trying to break him off. Calvin, remembers, bet him the $15. And we're trying to figure out here how Oliver is feeling and how Calvin is feeling. The blue is going to help us with Oliver. The red is going to help us with Calvin. So it says it, and then you see those brackets. The cactus arm begins to tilt. Those brackets are there so that's not actually in the story, but because in this assignment we pulled this part from the story, we need to make sure we understand that we're talking about the cactus arm. It is the cactus arm. So it begins to tilt, finally twisting and tearing off at the joint, plummeting, that's one of our vocab words, plummeting to the ground in another puff of dust. Yes, I shout. Remember, the blue is Oliver. Yes, I shout. There won't be any teasing at school tomorrow. And with all of Calvin's money gone, maybe not ever. All right, so let's think about what this clue tells us about Oliver. Okay, well, first off, remember, this is not just based on this tiny section. We have a whole bit of background knowledge on Oliver before we're answering that. Remember, when we make inferences about how a character is thinking, acting, feeling, and speaking, we also have to use our background knowledge. And anything we know about a character can be considered background knowledge. And so what we see in the blue, he is celebrating. Yes, I did it. Calvin is not going to tease me, okay? But you have to ask yourself, did Oliver want to do this in the first place? Well, no, not really. But he finally did it because Calvin was kind of calling him a baby, calling him a chicken. We kind of picked up on the idea that Calvin probably picks on him a lot, teases him some. And so Oliver, this blue, when he's saying, yes, I picture him like, doing the arm pump, like, yes, okay, there won't be any teasing at school tomorrow. And with all of Calvin's money gone, maybe not ever. And I know that when I know that someone's not going to be making fun of me, I feel kind of relieved. And I think that Oliver probably feels relieved here as well. And so in the blue, in my box, I would write, Oliver probably feels relieved or thankful or excited or happy that Calvin is not going to be making fun of him. No one at school is going to hear the story. Calvin's not going to be picking on him in front of all of his friends. And so Oliver has that sense of relief. Now, if relief is not the word you chose, you want to at least kind of have a word that's similar to that word of relief, something along the lines of, like I said, he's happy, he's excited, he's relieved, he feels like all of his stress is gone. That's what relieved means. To feel like that stress or the anxiety is gone. Okay? But let's then talk about Calvin. Calvin is pale despite the blazing heat. I can't believe it, he mutters. What does that tell us about Calvin? All right, well, we got a good clue here. Calvin is pale, but it's blazing hot outside. So what do you know about someone when they're pale? Well, they're sick. Maybe they're in shock. And I kind of think that's what has happened to Calvin. He's in shock. I can't believe it. And he might even be a little sick to his stomach. What's he have to do now? Well, he has to pay Oliver $15. And so I think Calvin is probably feeling shocked or angry or sick to his stomach. Can't believe that Oliver's done it, and kind of sick to his stomach or upset that he's going to have to pay Oliver the $15. Okay? All right, let's look at our next set here. So in this time, Oliver is going to be, how he feels is going to be red. And then why he feels that way, what's causing him to feel that way, is going to be in blue. So remember, he's already broken off the cactus arm. It's storming and he's hearing those whispers, who stole my cactus arm? And he's kind of scared, but he thinks that maybe it's just Calvin playing a joke on him, right? So this is that scene right after that moment when he's like jumping out of bed and like gonna go see if Calvin's outside. It says, lightning flashes, revealing the yard outside my window. I run back to my bed, my heart leaping in my chest, the thunder rattling the windows. I pull the covers up over my head. Well, here we have a lot of clues about Calvin's actions. We can see what he's done, and we can make inferences about how that means he feels. So what's he do? He runs back to his bed. What's his heart doing? Leaping, beating in his chest. Thunder is shaking the windows, and he pulls the covers over his head. Well, what do we know someone who runs to bed, heart is pounding, and they pull the covers over their bed, especially during a thunderstorm? How is he probably feeling? He's probably scared. He is probably terrified. All of those clues to give us a link to someone who is scared. When I am scared, I don't walk, I run. My heart beats out of my chest. I definitely don't like thunderstorms. And if I'm in my bed and I'm pulling my covers up over my head in the middle of all of this, it's probably because I'm scared. So now let's look at the blue and see why he feels that way. Because I hadn't seen Calvin outside. I hadn't seen anyone at all. Oh, remember the whole time he's hearing whispers, who stole my cactus arm? He's thinking it's gotta be Calvin, or gotta be Calvin. But Calvin's not out there. So what does the blue tell us about why he could be scared? Here's a hint. What would you be wondering if you hadn't seen anyone? He's scared because he's hearing whispers and he doesn't see anybody outside. There is not a human outside his window making these sounds. So what's he probably wondering? The cactus arm is haunting me. The cactus is haunting me. Okay? All right. And then let's look at this last one here. Okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about Dad in this exchange as well. So remember, he owns up to Dad about tearing off the cactus arm, says he wants to help. Oliver's mom and dad take him to the national park. They're on the tour with the park ranger. Dad raises his hand. What's the penalty for damaging a cigarro? He looks down at me and raises an eyebrow. A person can be sentenced up to 25 years in prison for cutting down a cigarro, even on their own property, the park ranger says. I gulp. 25 years? My own hand shoots up and the park ranger points to me. Well, what can we do to help? I ask. Putting his arm around me, Dad smiles. All right, so we're looking at red about Dad. What do we think Dad wants Oliver to learn? So basically, we're asking ourselves, what's Dad thinking here? Why would Dad ask this question? What is he thinking when he asks this question? So remember, we look for clues about what he feels, what he says, what he does to help us kind of figure out what he's thinking. So he raises his hand. Okay, he asks the question, what's the penalty? Remember, penalty is a vocab word. What's the consequence or the punishment for damaging a cigarro? And he looks down at Oliver and he raises an eyebrow. It's kind of like that look a mom or dad gives you when they know that you've been doing something wrong or they know what's going on. So what do those actions and those words tell us about what Dad is thinking? Well, he wants Oliver to know what would happen if he got caught breaking off the cactus arm. He wants Oliver to know that it's a serious deal that he broke the cactus arm, not that it was just a funny little thing to do with his friends. It's a big, big deal. And that's when the park ranger gives us the punishment. So then in blue, we're going to switch over back to Oliver. What does this clue in blue tell you about how Oliver's experiences and his visit to the park have changed him? Okay. So he realizes that it is a serious deal. He gulps. What does that mean to someone? He makes that big swallow. Okay, I try to make a swallow noise for you. Okay, big swallow. 25 years, that's what he's thinking. Okay, he raises his hand and says, what can I do to help? So how has Oliver changed? Well, at the beginning of our story, Oliver went from tearing off the cactus arm because he didn't want to be teased to doing everything he can to help solve this problem and make sure that this doesn't happen in the future. So the blue tells us that Oliver's learned that this is a big deal and he's got to take this seriously, and it doesn't matter if someone's going to tease you, you've got to do the right thing. And later on in our story, he gives the $15 to kind of help protect those cactuses. Okay, cacti. All right, guys, and then you had this question here at the end. It was just one to make up on your own. There's nothing here for me to give you. I'll be looking at this one. But make sure that if your answers are not matching up with my answers, you're reaching out to me and you're letting me know, like, hey, Miss Megan, I struggled with this assignment. You know, I didn't do as well as I thought I did, or I really didn't understand, or my answers didn't sound like your answers. You guys, you've got to be letting me know. Have mom or dad send me a message on Remind. Shoot me a message on Google Classroom. If you know how to work your email, send me an email. Okay, if you go to Google and you go to Gmail, my email is already in your email. It's there. It's always there. You can always email me. That's honestly a great way to get a hold of me, is to email me. So if you're having trouble, reach out and let me know, because this is part of being a virtual learner, or my kiddos who are in quarantine. This is part of you being responsible for your learning and saying, hey, I've been doing my work and I'm not getting it. I need to ask my teacher for help. Okay, you've got to reach out to me. Okay, kiddos, thanks so much for working hard for me today. Go complete your exit ticket and I will see you later.